In the town of Vijayanagar, on the bank of the Godavari, there is a responsible government officer named Ramananda Roy. Please do not neglect him, thinking he belongs to a Sudra family engaged in material activities. It is my request that you meet him without fail. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, Ramananda Roy is a fit person to associate with you. No other devotee can compare with him in knowledge of transcendental mellows. He is a most learned scholar, as well as an expert in devotional mellows. Actually, he is most exalted, and if you talk with him, you will see how glorious he is.
Anandi, go ahead.
I could not realize when I first spoke with Ramananda Roy that his topics and endeavors were all transcendentally uncommon. I made fun of him simply because he was a Vaishnava. The Bhattacharya said, by your mercy, I can now understand the truth about Ramananda Roy. In talking with him, you also will acknowledge his greatness. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's request that he meet Ramananda Roy. Bidding Sarvabhauma farewell, the Lord embraced him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked the Bhattacharya to bless him while he engaged in the devotional service of Lord Krishna at home, so that by Sarvabhauma's mercy, the Lord could return to Jagannath Puri. Saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed on his tour, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately fainted and fell to the ground.
Although Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya fainted, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not take notice of him. Rather, he left quickly. Who can understand the mind and intention of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? This is the nature of the mind of an uncommon personality. Sometimes it is soft like a flower. Sometimes it is as hard as a thunderbolt. The hearts of those above common behavior are sometimes harder than a thunderbolt, sometimes softer than a flower. How can one accommodate such contradictions in great personalities? Lord Nityananda Prabhu raised Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and with the help of his men, saw him to his home. Immediately, all the devotees came and partook of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's company. Afterwards, Gopinath Acharya came with the garments and prasadam.
All the devotees followed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to a place known as Alalanath. There, they all offered respects and various prayers. In great ecstasy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted for some time. Indeed, all the neighbors came to see him. All around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was also known as Govardhani, people began to shout the holy name of Hari. Lord Chaitanya, immersed in his usual ecstasy of love, danced in the midst of them. The body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was naturally very beautiful. It was like molten gold dressed in saffron cloth. Indeed, he was most beautiful for being ornamented with the ecstatic symptoms, which caused his bodily hair to stand on end, tears to well up in his eyes, and his body to tremble and perspire all over. Everyone present was astonished to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing and his bodily transformations. Whoever came did not want to return home.
Everyone, including children, old men and women, began to dance and to chant the holy names of Sri Krishna and Gopala. In this way, they all floated in the ocean of love of Godhead. Upon seeing the chanting and dancing of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda predicted that later there would be dancing and chanting in every village. Seeing that it was already getting late, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, the spiritual master, invented the means to disperse the crowd. When Lord Nityananda Prabhu took Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for lunch at noon, everyone came running around them. After finishing their baths, they returned at noon to the temple. Admitting his own men, Sri Nityananda Prabhu closed the outside door.
Okay, go back to 82, and there's a purport there. Upon seeing the chanting and dancing of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda predicted that later There would be dancing and chanting in every village. Purport. This prediction of Sri Nityananda Prabhu's is applicable not only in India, but also all over the world. That is now happening by his grace. The members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness are now traveling from one village to another in the Western countries and are even carrying the deity with them. These devotees distribute various literatures all over the world. We hope that these devotees who are preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will very seriously follow strictly in his footsteps. If they follow the rules and regulations and chant 16 rounds daily, their endeavor to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will certainly be successful. Okay, that was big news.
Yeah.
Big news back in whenever that was, 75, when this book was published.
Yeah.
And we were some of those devotees traveling in vans, going from village to village, and sometimes even carrying the deity with them. He's talking about the Radha Damodar bus.
Were you ever a part of that?
No, I missed that. Our program was even better, though. We were in.
Really?
Yeah, we had a really nice team of brahmacharis with Mahanedi Swami, Mahanedi, Nagaraj, Haripad, Chandrasekhar. Maybe you know Chandrasekhar, the Swami. He's spent a lot of time in New Zealand and Australia. I think he's in New York now most of the time. But anyway, he joined. He was with our team. And then later on, I traveled with another Swami throughout the Midwest. And we would take the Gaura-Nitai deities with us, and we'd go to college towns, and we'd visit different homes, people out in the Midwest, far from any temple. And yeah, that just kind of set the trajectory for the rest of my life. I kind of prefer being out where there's nothing going on and we try to stir up something. Okay, so that was the prediction of Lord Nityananda. Prabhupada just took the chance to say, yeah, he wasn't just talking about India, it's going on all over the world. Okay, Mucha, continue reading on.
I think it was Anandi.
Well, she
Well, are
finished.
we in 86?
Yeah, you're on
Okay.
86, Mucha.
Gopinath Acharya. Oh,
Uh-oh, what happened
yeah.
to Mucha?
Gopinath Acharya then brought prasad for the two lords to eat, and after they had eaten, the remnants of the food were distributed to all the devotees. Hearing about this, everyone came there to the outside door and began chanting the holy name, Hari, Hari. Thus there was a tumultuous sound. After lunch, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made them open the door. In this way, everyone received his audience with great pleasure. The people came and went until evening, and all of them became Vaishnava devotees and began to chant and dance. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then passed the night there and discussed the pastimes of Lord Krishna with his devotees with great pleasure.
The next morning, after taking his bath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started on his South Indian tour. He bade farewell to the devotees by embracing them. Although they all fell to the ground unconscious, the Lord did not turn to see them, but proceeded onward. In separation, the Lord became very much perturbed and walked on unhappily. His servant, Krishnadasa, who was carrying his water pot, followed behind. All the devotees remained there and fasted, and the next day they all unhappily returned to Jagannath Puri. Almost like a mad lion, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on his tour, filled with ecstatic love and performing Sankirtana, chanting Krishna's names as follows.
The Lord chanted, and now this is another one of those You have to open the verse to see what he chanted. The rest of the verse is in the purport. Krishna, 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 He.
Okay.
Krishna, 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 He. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. And Janavi just recorded this.
Yeah.
Let's see what happened.
With Willow Smith.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
nice.
Chanting this verse, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, known as Gaura Hari, went on his way. As soon as he saw someone, he would request him to chant Hari Hari. So whoever he saw on the road, he'd just say, chant Hari Hari. Whoever heard Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chant Hari Hari also chanted the holy name of Lord Hari and Krishna. In this way, they all followed the Lord, very eager to see him. After some time, the Lord would embrace these people and bid them return home, having invested each of them with spiritual potency. Each of these empowered persons would return to his own village, always chanting the holy name of Krishna, and sometimes laughing, crying, and dancing. So this idea, he just sees someone on the road. Imagine you're walking along and you see this sannyasi, and he says, chant, Hari, Hari. And you chant and you feel like, wow, I've never chanted like that before. Who is this person? And you walk with him for some time. And more people gather to walk with him. The crowd grows, and finally he stops and says, all right, all of you, now go back to your home. And he invests each of them with spiritual potency, and he embraces them. Each of these empowered persons would return to his own village, always chanting the holy name of Krishna, and sometimes laughing, crying, and dancing. Okay, go ahead. Somebody. Buchu, is it your turn? Yeah.
Such an empowered person would request everyone and anyone, whomever he saw, to chant the holy name of Krishna. In this way, all the villagers would also become devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People from different villages who came to see such an empowered individual would become like him simply by seeing him and receiving the mercy of his glance. When each of these newly empowered individuals returned to his own village, he also converted the villagers into devotees. And when others came out from different villages to see him, they were also converted. In this way, as an empowered man went from one village to another, all the people of South India became devotees. Thus many hundreds of people became Vaishnavas when they passed the Lord on the way and were embraced by him. It's like the hugging mother embrace the converts.
Yeah. And Bhakti Marg Swami, he walked across Canada all the way. That's a long walk. And he didn't do it just once. He walked from the East Coast to the West. And then he thought, well, now I should walk back. So he walked from the West Coast to the East Coast. And then he did the whole thing again. So he walked across Canada 4 times. And people would see him. He's dressed in saffron, he's got a shiny shaven head. He's just walking along the road, and it's a quiet Canadian road, even though it's the main highway. It's pretty quiet a lot of times. Sometimes people would park their car and just walk with him, just to talk to somebody who's walking across Canada and see what he's got to say. And sometimes people would pick him up and take him to a radio station to interview him. And so it was kind of like that. except it's Lord Chaitanya. But even here we're reading about someone empowered by Lord Chaitanya would go back to their village, always chanting. What else? Laughing, crying, dancing, rolling on the ground. And other people would be influenced by that person. Those people would start chanting and they'd go to their village and everybody would come to see them and be influenced by them. So it spread like a contagious good thing. Okay, which verse are we on now?
106.
110?
No, 106, I thought.
Yes, that's right. 106, and it's your turn, Anandi.
In whatever village Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed to accept alms, many people came to see him. By the mercy of the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone became a first-class devotee. Later, they became teachers or spiritual masters and liberated the entire world. In this way, the Lord went to the extreme southern part of India, and he converted all the provinces to Vaishnavism. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not manifest his spiritual potencies at Navadvip, but he did manifest them in South India and liberated all the people there. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's empowering of others can be understood by one who is actually a devotee of the Lord and who has received his mercy.
Matthew, are you in?
Yep.
Go ahead.
If one does not believe in the uncommon transcendental pastimes of the Lord, he is vanquished, both in this world and in the next. Whatever I have stated about the beginning of the Lord's tour should also be understood to hold for as long as the Lord toured South India. When Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the holy place known as Kurma Kshetra, he saw the deity and offered prayers and obeisances. While at this place, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in his usual ecstasy of love of Godhead and was laughing, crying, dancing, and chanting. Everyone who saw him was astonished. After hearing of these wonderful occurrences, everyone came to see him there. When they saw the beauty of the Lord and his ecstatic condition, they were all struck with wonder.
Just by seeing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone became a devotee. They began to chant Krishna and Hari and all the holy names. They all were merged in a great ecstasy of love, and they began to dance, raising their arms. Always hearing them chant the holy name of Lord Krishna, the residents of all the other villages also became Vaishnavas. By hearing the holy name of Krishna, the entire country became Vaishnav. It was as if the nectar of the holy name of Krishna overflooded the entire country. After some time, when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his external consciousness, a priest of the Lord Kurma deity gave him various offerings. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mode of preaching has already been explained, and I shall not repeat the explanation. In whichever village the Lord entered, his behavior was the same.
In one village, there was a Vedic Brahmana named Kurma. He invited Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home with great respect and devotion. This Brahmana brought Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home, washed his lotus feet with his family members, drank that water. With great affection and respect, Kurma Brahmana made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eat all kinds of food. After that, the remnants were shared by all the members of the family. The Brahmana then began to pray, "O my Lord, your lotus feet are meditated upon by Lord Brahma, and these very lotus feet have come into my home. My dear Lord, there is no limit to my great fortune. It cannot be described. Today my family, birth, and riches have all been glorified."
The Brahmana begged Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, my dear Lord, kindly show me favor and let me go with you. I can no longer tolerate the waves of misery caused by materialistic life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, don't speak like that again. Better to remain at home and chant the holy name of Krishna always.
Mm.
Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further advised the Brahmana Kurma, if you follow these instructions, your materialistic life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. Indeed, if you follow these regulative principles, we will again meet here, or rather, you will never lose my company. At whosever house Sri Chaitanya accepted his alms by taking prasadam, he would he would convert the dwellers to his Sankirtana movement and advise them just as he advised the Brahmana named Kurma.
Okay, there's some real important purports here that we should go back to. Let's see.
27.
Okay. Yep, I was looking at that one. So, Matthew, read the verse 127. Are you ready?
Yep. 127. Okay. Back there. Okay. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, don't speak like that again. Better to remain at home and chant the holy name of Krishna always.
And read 2 sentences of purport.
It is not advisable in this age of Kali to leave one's family suddenly, for people are not trained as proper brahmacharis and grihastas. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised the Brahmin not to be too eager to give up family life.
It would be better to remain with his family and try to become purified by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly under the direction of a spiritual master. This is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
If this principle is followed by everyone, there is no need to accept sannyas. In the next verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises everyone to become an ideal householder by offensively chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and teaching the same principle to everyone he meets.
Okay, Anandi, read the next verse.
I just need a second to get to it. Is it 128?
Yes.
Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land.
Okay, 2 sentences of purport.
Me or someone else?
You, Anandi.
This is the sublime mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Many people come and inquire whether they have to give up family life to join the society, but that is not our mission.
One can remain comfortably in his residence. We simply request everyone to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Go ahead.
If one is a little literate and can read Bhagavad Gita as it is and Srimad Bhagavatam, that is so much the better.
These works are now available in an English translation and are done very authoritatively to appeal to all classes of men. Instead of living engrossed in material activities, people throughout the world should take advantage of this movement and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra at home with their families. And then he goes into this whole thing about the 4 regulative principles, don't eat meat. So we're going to skip over that because I know everyone is. Let's see, go down to just about the bottom, Muchu. The Krishna consciousness movement is trying to elevate human society to the perfection of life by pursuing the method described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his advice to the Brahmin Kurma.
That is, one should stay at home, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and preach the instructions of Krishna as they are given in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay. And then the next verse is a good one. So read that translation, Mochu.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised the Brahmana, Kurma, if you follow this instruction, your materialistic life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. Indeed, if you follow these regulative principles, we'll again meet here, or rather you will never lose my company. That's big.
Where are you guys?
Text 129.
Oh, okay.
Reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita verse where Krishna says, you'll never be lost to me.
Oh, yeah. One who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me. I'm never lost to him. He's never lost to me.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so what are the instructions here? If you follow this instruction, so what is the instruction?
Chant and preach and be a family man.
Let's see. Yaredeke Tarekaha Krishna Upadesh. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna. Amara Gyaya Guru Tarahani Desh. Is that right?
Yeah.
Look at that Bengali. Amara Gyaya Guru Hana Tare Desh. Guru Hana, becoming a spiritual master. In one of these purports, somewhere in here, Prabhupada gets into he really makes it clear that he wants us all to become a guru. Let's see, it might be in the next one after this. I remember it's right around here. I was surprised how clearly he stated that, because some devotees feel like they're questioning, should I not? Is it bold of me? And he said one should not be puffed up and think he is too great to become a spiritual master. But rather, everyone should humbly take on disciples.
Wow.
And train them. Yeah.
Kind of the other way around usually in our heads. It's in my head. It's
yeah. I was surprised. So let's read this purport and see if it's in here. I know it's coming up. It's somewhere in this neighborhood. Nandi, want to start the purport?
Which one is it? 130?
129.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. This is an opportunity for everyone. If one simply follows the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the guidance of his representative and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, teaching everyone as far as possible the same principle, the contamination of the materialistic way of life will not even touch him.
It does not matter whether one lives in a holy place like Vrindavan, Navadvip, or Jagannath Puri, or in the midst of European cities where the materialistic way of life is very prominent. If a devotee follows the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he lives in the company of the Lord.
That's big. That's really big. Doesn't matter where you live. If you follow the instructions, and the instructions are just try to tell people about Krishna. Find your way in, find a way to do it. Wherever he lives, he converts that place into Vrindavan and Navadvip. That means that materialism cannot touch him. This is the secret of success for one advancing in Krishna consciousness. So just by going around telling people about Krishna, it converts your place into Vrindavan or Navadvip. This means that materialism cannot touch you.
He says that twice here.
It says what?
Materialism can't touch him. He says it twice.
In the purport?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see that. It's the second sentence. If
Mm.
a long sentence, go ahead and read it.
If one simply follows the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the guidance of his representative and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, teaching everyone as far as possible the same principle, the contamination of the materialistic way of life will not even touch him. So there's three things: follows the instructions, chants, and preaches.
Under the guidance of a representative. Oh, okay. It does not matter whether one lives in a holy place like Vrindavan, Navadvip, or Jagannath Puri, or in the midst of European cities, or even in Kansas or New Zealand, where the materialistic way of life is very prominent. If a devotee follows the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he lives in the company of the Lord. So following the instructions is how you associate with someone. In 1977, after Prabhupada left this world in November, Satsvarup Maharaj was our GBC, and he came and spoke along. We had a lot of classes on what do we do now? What are we going to do? And he read a lot of verses and purports with good instructions on this. And the term Vani and Vapu came up. These were in some purports. In the Bhagavatam, is it the fourth canto, the story of King Puranjana. Anyway, in the absence of the Vapu, the body of the spiritual master, then you serve the Vani. What are you showing us, Matthew? Hard to see it clearly. What is this? You're muted.
It's a letter from Satsvarup.
Oh, a recent letter?
No, it's from 1992.
Oh, wow. How did you get that?
I met him at New York. Anyway, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt your story.
Relic, yeah.
That's cool.
He was really saintly back then. He still is. But back then he was really, he stood out as, oh boy, such a nice presentation. He would calmly describe all sides of an argument and then bring out the conclusion. And yeah, we got to go visit his place a couple of years ago because his health is bad and he's kind of, he doesn't go out. He doesn't talk to many people. So it
Was
was
that
really,
Haryasva was there?
no, Haryashva was in Philadelphia. This was in upstate New York. But I got to
I
tell
thought
him,
Haryasva would have went there because I was in Philly 3 years,
mm-hmm,
in 2016,
uh-huh,
and I remember Haryasva going to see Satsvarup Das Goswami.
mm-hmm. I went
Yeah.
with a couple of other devotees, but it was nice. We got to sit and eat lunch with him, and I got to tell him like, I was just a new devotee back in those days, and I remember you giving these lectures and how you gave a lecture about chanting, and then it was just so good how you presented what kirtan is about, what chanting is about, and then you sang this simple melody, and we were all like right there. It was like the most ecstatic thing. And he's not like a lively, bubbly, jumpy kind of kirtan singer. It was just simple, but it was powerful. It was effective, and so anyway, that was what we were talking about after Prabhupada left this world. That okay, all we have now are the instructions of Prabhupada, and that is how we live with Prabhupada. And here it says, if you follow the instructions, Materialism cannot touch you. If the devotee follows the instructions, he lives in the company of the Lord. So that's the thing. We take the instructions and we're with the Lord all the time. And the Bengali, we used to have this memorized. Kabuna bhadive tomar vishaya taranga, punarapi e tani, pabe mora sangha. You always have my sangha. Pabe mora sangha. Vishaya kabuna bhadive. So never at any time will Vishaya Taranga, the waves of Vishaya, materialistic way of life, they won't bother you anymore if you just stay busy in this service. So fortunately, I've been around devotees that really took that to heart, and that's where I tend to go. So let's read the next verse in purport. Text 130. Whose turn is it? Let's just say Anandi, read the verse. Text 130.
At whosoever's house Sri Chaitanya accepted his alms by taking prasadam, he would convert the dwellers to Sankirtana movement and advise them just as he advised the Brahmana named Kurma.
And then the purport, read 2 sentences.
The cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explained here very nicely. One who surrenders to him and is ready to follow him with heart and soul does not need to change his location.
Nor is it necessary for one to change his status. One may remain a householder, a medical practitioner, an engineer, or whatever.
Whoa. How did that one land on you? It doesn't matter. One only has to follow the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and instruct relatives and friends in the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
That's pretty interesting. Relatives and friends. I feel this pressure, or maybe it's a calling to preach outside my friend and family circle, and otherwise it doesn't count as preaching. That's the notion that I have.
Mm.
You know, like I have to, like friends and family, that's kind of not a big deal.
Oh, it's a tremendous deal. They're the hardest people to preach to. Ask Matthew. But really, that's the real sphere of our influence. And if we take that up and, we can have some minimal effect on them, or sometimes they may take it, they may surprise us and really go with it. Just like we read about Gopinath Acharya working on his brother-in-law, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Sure.
He could go close, he could joke with them and say all kinds of things that you can't just say to anybody. But yeah, you notice that too. With your friends, your family, the people you're with, you don't have to go out on the street and set up a book table or, go find brand new people, but just the people that you know. That's what I find really interesting in this purport. Thanks for pointing that out.
That's encouraging because the most satisfying, well, I've never been able to really make or, influence someone to take up devotional service fully, except for Isaac.
Oh yeah, and he's your friend.
He's my high school friend, so
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Man, those are the ones I feel shy around. I just
yeah.
I have a hard time. I'm the new person now. I just kind of keep cool around them and not preach. But yeah, you showed me up. You did it. You brought him in.
No, actually, I didn't preach to him. I was we were walking along the street 11 years ago, and I just started chanting, just singing the Panchatattva mantra. Because I'm like that. I'll just sing. I'll just be myself. I'm not really gonna like censor myself around
Uh-huh.
like friends or something like that. So he just asked me like, "What's that?" And I just told him, and he kept on asking more, and yeah.
Oh man. Huh.
One has to learn humility and meekness at home, following the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that way, one's life will be spiritually successful.
One should not try to be an artificially advanced devotee, thinking I'm a first-class devotee, so it is best. Sorry, that's giving the giggles. So it is best not to accept any disciples. Such thinking should be avoided.
You're laughing because you have that tendency to think that way?
No way. No, just funny.
It is funny.
I am a first-class devotee.
I am a first-class devotee.
You'd be surprised, though. I mean, sometimes people will be reading it and like, oh man, how did he know? I was thinking that. You'd be surprised.
Well, why would being a first-class devotee lead you to not accept disciples?
Yep, I know. That's the curious thing. Such thinking should be avoided. I'm above that. I'm beyond that. I don't want to take on that menial task of having to tend to neophytes. I don't have time for that. I just want to get off and talk on high topics with the other first-class devotees.
Oh.
I don't have time for neophytes. I guess that's the only way I can see it.
Yeah,
That's a good.
I think you're right.
Such thinking should be avoided. So this is what I was talking about, where he's saying,
Yeah.
be humble and take on disciples. So it does take some humility. I mean, to take on, it was this one devotee who is a guru, and he said, please don't mention my name. Don't tell anybody that I said this. It was something private that he shared. He said, new disciples are just like little children. They're so cute and so nice when they first come and take initiation, and they're crying and everything's, oh, Jai Gurudev. But then after a few years, they become like teenagers.
Right.
And said it's not easy. And then then you have all these other people saying, wow, look at that big guru sitting up on the chair, and it's not an easy job. And oh man, then you got disciples, and they're married to each other, and then they get divorced, and then they're coming to you saying, you know what she said to me, and then she comes and you know what she did to me, and like you got to listen to all of that and sort it out, or else tell them, you need to talk to someone else about this. This isn't in my job description. But it gets really sticky. Any relation you have with any human being, it gets complex and sticky. And so I'm a first-class devotee. It is best not to accept any disciples. That's tough. Such thinking should be avoided. You got to take it on. You got to, and if everybody takes on a few people to help along, you may feel unqualified, but there's something I heard years ago. This devotee said, well, you know more than those people because they don't know anything. So tell them what you know. And then they're going to know as much as you. But by that time, you're going to learn more. So just keep learning more. And you're going to help somebody. And like Mother Teresa, somebody said to her, like, look, there's thousands of people dying, and you're only helping one or two. What good are you doing? And she said, well, I'm helping this one or two people. I made a difference to them. I think that was the question. What difference are you making? And she said, well, I'm making a difference to this person. So we can all make a difference to one or two people. All right, so who read that? I'm a first class. Okay, Matthew, go
Mm.
ahead.
One has to become purified at home by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and preaching the principles enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, one can become a spiritual master and be freed from the contamination of material life.
Okay, that was the super awesome purport. I really like that one.
It's not over. We're skipping the rest.
What's that?
Are we skipping the rest?
Oh, is there more to it? Oh, yeah, there is. Whoa.
Yes.
I got this little tiny window. So, I don't know. We may skip that. Yeah, it's talking about the sahajas and.
I noticed you skipped the part about polygamy.
Oh, yeah. You noticed that. Okay. You were not supposed to notice that.
What does it say about polygamy?
He says it's okay.
He says if there are more women than men.
And if the
because he
men.
wants all women to be married, right?
Yeah. It's like, okay, it's good. He was talking to a bunch of hippies.
Hey, watch it. There's a hippie girl in the midst.
Yeah. But he was like, they were all like just totally into loose, no restrictions. And so like some of his purports are really, really on that. You have to get married. You have to stay married. You have to, marriage means that, and he gets real specific and it's like, oh man. Okay. But that was really needed back then.
You know, can I comment on something?
Okay, if it's good.
Why? Are you opposed to controversy?
That depends.
Good.
I really like. Go ahead.
I have to say that, and I've said this before, the Hare Krishna movement is sort of a model of what to do when the guru leaves his body. And the fact, for me anyway, and the fact that you follow the guru's Vani and make it readily available, and that you treat the devotees of the guru, the original guru, with such respect, and that also you allow devotees to become gurus, all very, very a good model for any kind of spiritual movement.
Mm-hmm.
I really admire that.
Yeah.
And I also, in the pandemic kirtan, I was telling my husband, you know, my husband and I watched it, and we were amazed because people would come from their homes, and I said, every home has a temple. They have altars, the whole family, they have a harmonium, and I mean, who does that? That's a sign of success, really.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's really big. Mucha is excited to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I never, like you just said, the Hare Krishna movement is a model for how to,
How to continue.
how to continue when the guru leaves their body. That's cool to know, and yeah, it kind of gives me a sense of being impressed, and with my with the movement that I'm a part of, and yeah, I didn't realize that it was seen like that, the Hare Krishna movement had that reputation, and it is true. Yeah, and like you said, every devotee has their own temple. It's pretty cool. Thanks for saying that.
It's very cool. It's very, very cool. And the other thing is that you guys are a model for is that you make the Maha Mantra so readily available to everybody. You could be in your home and you could, through technology, I mean, it's just amazingly wonderful. Or you could go and, take a subway ride and you'll hear the Maha Mantra. And it's just
Right.
such mercy. It really is. And
Okay,
much
thank you.
appreciated.
When you said controversial, I was like expecting something really painful.
No, I'm just saying, are you afraid of controversy? I mean, sometimes I tend to speak out, but really there are many admirable things. And when it doesn't happen, I also have had experience when it doesn't happen, when the guru leaves the body, how painful it is when the guru's bani is not readily available, etc. It's so painful. So you guys have been spared all of that, and it's available, so readily available. This mercy and nectar, so readily available to everybody. You don't even have to be striving to be a devotee, and you receive it. You're just showered by it. So it's wonderful. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
it wasn't easy. We went through some real pains. It, there was a period where things looked really dangerous and dark and scary. But it has come out the other side, it appears. And most of the controversies have been resolved or put to rest. Um, yeah, I remember years ago, oh, how many years ago? Maybe 20, close to 20 years ago. I used to drive a freight truck, and let's see, I made a delivery in the south part of Chicago, and then I had to wait for a load. And so I called up my friends there and just asked, are there any houses I could visit south side Chicago? And they said, yeah. They sent me to this one house. I stayed there during the day. Let's see, late in the day, the man, it was an Indian man, and he had this beautiful altar with Gaurnitai deities, beautiful altar. And he had mridanga, harmonium. And then his kids came home from school, son and a daughter. And they were like maybe 8 and 10 years old. And the kids ran in, they just said, hi ball, and they ran and took a shower. The boy put on a dhoti, the girl put on a sari, and the father said, yeah, they're rushing to do the artik. And the girl started doing the artik, and the boy picked up the mridanga and started singing a bhajan. And I asked, how did this come about? And he said, well, I talked with the devotees in the Chicago temple, and they asked, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing for your kids? Um, and he said, at that time I used to drink, and I thought, yeah, I'm not giving my children any culture, so let me give them this. So he stopped going to parties, he stopped drinking, he bought an altar, he bought deities, bought a mridanga, had the devotees train his kids. And those kids were on fire, man. As soon as they got home, they enjoyed it. And then the girl took a turn singing a bhajan on the harmonium, and the boy played the mridanga. And it's not like the father had to tell them to do it. It was on their schedule. They just did it. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And then next day I took off. Of course, they fed me really good, just like Lord Chaitanya. Um, um, and then again, I came through Chicago again, and it was the same situation. I called up and said, hey, is there a house I could stay at? And they sent me to another house, and it was practically the same thing, but in a different house. Beautiful altar, son and a daughter, came home from school, did the artik, did the kirtan, and took a shower, put on tilak, dressed in their devotee clothes. Like, wow, how many houses are there like this? This is so cool. It used to be back in the 80s. I was traveling with a devotee when we were brahmacharis, and we traveled all over the South distributing books in the winter. And where was that? Columbia, South Carolina. We stopped at a hotel, and it was run by Patels. Okay, there's a bunch of them. But they said, would you like to see our temple? And it was full of tulsi plants and big, beautiful temple, big temple room. And they had this really nice harmonium. And we just all got together and sang bhajans with their family for hours and hours. And that was like a big deal that we found such a nice family out in Columbia, South Carolina. Because like we'd never heard of anything like that. That was big news back in the early 80s. But now the world is infested with altars and harmoniums and mridangas and kirtans and tulsi plants. And yeah, it's really taken off. As we read in the verse, Nityananda predicted, this chanting and dancing will go on in every village. So now in Colombia, I know quite a few people, and I know those, I'm still in touch with those people. They were in the hotel. It's almost 8:30. How did that happen?
Don't know.
Let's read just a few more verses. Somebody take a turn. Anybody? Muchu, go ahead, read.
31.
31, 32, yeah.
Okay. While on his tour, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu would spend the night at the temple by the road. Whenever he accepted food from a person, he would give him the same advice he gave the Brahmana named Kurma. He adopted this process until he returned to Jagannath Puri from his South Indian tour. Thus I have described the Lord's behavior elaborately in the case of the Kurma. In this way, you will know Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's dealings throughout South India. Thus, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu would remain at night in one place, and the next morning after bathing he would start again. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu left, the Brahmana Kurma followed him a great distance, but eventually Lord Chaitanya took care to send him back home.
Oh, Anand, do you want to read 5 more? This is an interesting little story.
The purport to 135?
Oh, is there a purport?
Oh, I don't know what you said. I mean, I'm just asking, what do you want me to do?
Is there a purport? No. Just read the next 5 verses.
Okay, sorry. There was also a Brahmana named Vasudeva who was a great person but was suffering from leprosy. Indeed, his body was filled with living worms. Although suffering from leprosy, the Brahmana Vasudeva was enlightened. As soon as one worm fell from his body, he would pick it up and place it back again in the same location. Then one night, Vasudeva heard of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's arrival, and in the morning he came to see the Lord at the house of Kurma. When the leper Vasudeva came to Kurma's house to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was informed that the Lord had already left. The leper then fell to the ground unconscious. When Vasudeva, the leper Brahmana, was lamenting due to not being able to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord immediately returned to that spot and embraced him.
Go ahead, Matthew.
When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu touched him, both the leprosy and his distress went to a distant place. Indeed, Vasudev's body became very beautiful to his great happiness. The Brahmin Vasudev was astonished to behold the wonderful mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he began to recite a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam touching the Lord's lotus feet. He said, "Who am I, a sinful, poor friend of a Brahmin, and who is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of 6 opulences? Nonetheless, he has embraced me with his 2 arms." The Brahmin Vasudev continued, "O my merciful Lord, such mercy is not possible for ordinary living entities. Such mercy can be found only in you. Upon seeing me, even a sinful person goes away due to my bad bodily odor, yet you have touched me. Such is the independent behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Being meek and humble, the Brahmin Vasudeva worried that he would become proud after being cured by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To protect the Brahmin, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised him to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra incessantly. By doing so, he would never become unnecessarily proud. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also advised Vasudeva to preach about Krishna and thus liberate living entities. As a result, Krishna would very soon accept him as his devotee. After instructing the Brahmin Vasudeva in that way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared from that spot. Then the two Brahmins, Kurma and Vasudeva, embraced each other and began to cry, remembering the transcendental qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus I have described how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reclaimed the leper Vasudeva and so received the name Vasudevamrita Prada.
Thus I end my description of the beginning of the tour of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his visiting the temple of Kurma, and his liberating the leper Brahmana Vasudeva. One who hears these pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great faith will surely very soon attain to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I admit that I do not know the beginning or end of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. However, whatever I've written, I've heard from the mass of great personalities. O devotees, please do not consider my offenses in this regard. The lotus feet are my only shelter. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishnadas narrate Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, following their footsteps.
All right, that's it for chapter 7. Chapter 8, we start with tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. That was unprecedented.
Was it unprecedented or unprecedented?
I don't know. It was.
It was something.
In what way was it unprecedented?
I don't know. It always seems. It always
had a
seems
good-
new every time we read it.
A good conversation and lots of pastimes of your own that we talked about.
And it was the first time that the four of us read this together. So in that
Right.
way, unprecedented. And it's the first time you've ever read it too, right? And
Yep.
Anandi, your first time through?
I don't know. I seem to be familiar with most of the stories. I don't know how. It may be that I listened to the audio. I thought I fell asleep every time I listened to the audio of the